Now, maybe you thought you couldn't go any deeper into word ordering than I've already been into, but you can, and here's how. Stephen turned to face the creature, and all at once felt terror, disgust, and fearful anticipation. Now, you can even go moving around the order of those descriptive words to get different effects, right? These are special effects. Stephen turned to face the creature and all at once felt disgust, terror, and fearful anticipation. Okay? Instead of terror, disgust, and fearful anticipation. Now, you might find that there's a different feeling to saying terror first and disgust second, or disgust first and terror second. It's so subtle that it's almost, invisible. But sometimes you find that there is such a subtle difference, but it's an important one or a useful one. So I encourage you to play each version in your mind and move them around, Think of the different rhythm, think of the different imagery, think of the different dramatic impact, think of the different emotional impact. See how micro this is, this is really granular. What does it do to the sequence of pictures that form in your mind when you hear disgust first or terror first, right? There's a subtle difference in that transition. There's a subtle difference. And there's a subtle rhythmic difference as well, particularly when you've got the last thing, fearful anticipation. You can move it around and start to see differences in the impact. Now also, when you look at words at this microscopic level of detail, you also begin to notice things or make interesting observations that might help you when deciding which words to use. Now, look at the three words in the emotional part of our description, which was terror, disgust, and fearful anticipation. Now, you might, when you look at them through a microscope, you might start to wonder whether, is there a difference between terror and fearful anticipation, or are they too close together to be easily distinguishable? And if not, is there another word that might be better to create the kind of effect that you want in this emotional description? So it's only when you look at things in this way that you begin to question things and might actually end up changing one of the words in the sequence. So terror might become horror because you may decide that horror is sufficiently distinct from fearful anticipation, or more so than the idea of terror. Does terror include fearful anticipation? It's a debate that you might have. So the point is, whether you agree or not, having that kind of level of attention to detail is going to help you to fine-tune your narrative in a way that you wouldn't if you didn't have this kind of view of things. You also want to look at this in the context of the whole narrative, because the rhythmic effect of having a particular word order there might have maybe it's too similar to a word order you had somewhere else, or you want that similarity or you don't want that similarity, and that's, again, the level of detail. You have a tremendous power in your hands when you look at writing in this way at this word level. Another example to push home this point, let's look at this. He explained his policy to the faces of his rage-filled colleagues. Okay. Now, you got this rage-filled colleagues, okay? Just move rage-filled somewhere else and look what happens. He explained his policy to the rage-filled faces of his colleagues. There's a very subtle difference, to the faces of his rage-filled colleagues or to the rage-filled faces of his colleagues is a different effect. It's very subtle. Which do you prefer? Which one works better? But that's word ordering at the highest level. Okay. Think about these things all the way through the piece of writing. Now, you can also reorder words in a sentence just for the purpose of reading more elegantly. Okay. That's beyond the sort of emotional impact and everything, but it just reads more elegantly. Now have a look at this. The stranger approached the barman with a penetrating, deep gaze. Okay. Is this any better in terms of rhythm or comprehension or the effect that you want to have? The stranger approached the barman with a deep, penetrating gaze. Okay. It's worth considering. What's the difference? Yes, it's small, it's subtle, but it is a difference. Another example of this reordering for elegance in a less sort of dramatic sentence. As profit season kicks off, exporters are set to report a huge boost from the sharp drop in the currency, whose strength has been an early earnings killer for years. Now try moving the 4 years somewhere else, just to see how you can create subtle differences in terms of elegance. As profit season kicks off, exporters are set to report a huge boost from the sharp drop in the currency, whose strength for years has been an earnings killer. Do you prefer that? Or as profit season kicks off, exporters are set to report a huge boost from the sharp drop in the currency, whose strength has for years been an earnings killer. What does it do to comprehension? What does it do for elegance, for beauty? So choose which one you like best, but get used to playing around with this word order until you get, you hit the sweet spot, which is you have the optimum comprehension and the optimum beauty.